Chapter 3. Shadows of the Past. There was always something subtly strange about the village of the Fae. Lelia felt it every day, but today the sensation pressed on her more heavily. She watched a stranger, a skinny, timid boy clutching an old bag as if it were his lifeline. Beside him stood a sage, well known in these parts as someone who never appeared without purpose. His words were measured, sharp needles of sarcasm he seemed to enjoy using to puncture silence. "You Fae are always so cautious," he remarked, glancing at Lelia. Is that just how it seems? Sometimes, I get the impression you're hiding more than you show." Lelia merely smirked. She knew the old man was clever and dangerous, but her curiosity was drawn more toward his apprentice. The boy seemed out of place in this world, as though he had been dragged into something he didn't understand. Yet, his presence didn't feel accidental. "Thank you for the compliment," she replied calmly. "We're used to keeping some things to ourselves. You're not exactly an open book yourself, are you?" "Fair point," he muttered, nodding toward the boy. "Anyway, I'm not here for idle chatter. He addressed the boy, "do something useful. Look around, try not to trip again. And don't touch anything without permission." The boy flushed and lowered his gaze but obediently began to explore the village. He moved hesitantly, approaching flowers and trees as if afraid to disturb them. When his eyes met Lelia's, something flickered in their depths. A moment later, it was gone, but she noticed it: fear. Sadness. Or something else. She was about to ask him when a soft rustling, like fabric shifting, caught her attention. All eyes turned to the old oak at the center of the village. Beneath its thick roots, something was changing. The ground trembled as if it were breathing, and a faint white mist began seeping out. "What is that?" asked Ellen cautiously, standing behind her sister. The sage squinted before replying grimly, "Someone awakened something. And it wasn't me." The boy looked uneasy but said nothing. Lelia, keeping her gaze on him, approached the oak. She knew it was older than their village, older than their lineage. It had always been there. But now, as the ground beneath it shifted, a cold fear ran down her spine. "This doesn't feel like ordinary magic," she murmured, turning to the sage. "Because it isn't magic, it's something else," he said dryly, though a spark of curiosity lit his eyes. "If you want to know what happened to your parents, now might be the time to ask." His words were sharp as blades. Lelia froze, then stepped closer to the tree. She reached out, touching the rough bark. The oak seemed to shudder, and then the mist erupted into light. For a moment, they were all blinded. When the light faded, they saw a figure. A tall, gaunt man stood beneath the tree. His clothes were torn, his face scarred, and his eyes, they glowed with the same light as the boy's. Lelia felt her chest tighten. "Father!" Ellen's voice broke the silence. The man turned his head toward them. There was something inhuman in his eyes. "You've awakened me," he rasped, his voice hoarse as if it hadn't been used in centuries. Lelia took a step back but didn't look away. It was impossible. Their father had disappeared years ago, and he certainly hadn't been like this. But if it was him, what had happened? What had turned him into this being standing before them? The boy retreated as well, but the sage merely smirked. "Well," he said, "it seems this mystery just got a lot more interesting."